Well, 7 people are facing corruption and bribery charges in an alleged money laundering scheme in Ravenna. The investigator, Tom Meyer, says this plot involves millions of dollars and a businessman he exposed 10 days ago for passing a $2.5 million bad check.
The only reason Ravenna businessman Edward Frost was not arrested during a police raid Friday is that he was already sitting in the Geauga County Jail on unrelated charges of passing a worthless $2.5 million check. Frost is a convicted sex offender who pledged $500,000 to Cardinal Schools through the boosters to try to win naming rights to the school's athletic complex. Now, Frost finds himself in even deeper legal trouble for alleged corrupt activity at this Ravenna auction house. A 3-month police investigation resulted in the indictment of Frost and 6 others in what we're told is an extensive money laundering scheme. Charges include engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, theft, receiving stolen property, and passing bad checks. Frost is also accused of bribing an unidentified public official. Police seized 7 pricey SUVs and sports cars, including a new Mercedes, a Jaguar, and a Corvette. Ravenna police are spearheading an ongoing investigation, which they won't discuss. But sources tell us this case is a lot bigger than police first thought. All 7 individuals are due in court this week. They face stiff prison time if convicted. Sarah?
We know you'll keep an eye on this one. Thanks, Tom.